On May 2nd, get ready to escape. Isis, Escape from Transylvania. The goddess next door and John Haynes must escape a horde of vampires on the hunt in this horror-filled Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Escape from Transylvania in paperback and e-reader May 2nd. A couple of weeks ago, Mr. Superboy223 made two videos, one about Lisa Bonet and one about Erica Alexander. And in both videos, he talked about how these women were saying that Bill Cosby was aloof. And this was something I experienced in my own personal life on my civil service job at the City College of New York. Now, at the performance appraisal where I was terminated, they wrote in the performance appraisal that I was quote unquote aloof and unapproachable. Now, when it comes down to this observation that black men are aloof, what that is a perspective of someone who comes from a single mother household. Because when it comes down to females who come from single mother households, in most cases they see black men as aloof because they are not used to seeing black men as leaders or authority figures. And when I heard Lisa Bonet and Erica Alexander make that statement about Bill Cosby, I saw where they were coming from, which was the perspective of someone from a single mother household. Because Lisa Bonet clearly comes from a single mother household, and she was raised in a household with someone with a white Jewish mother. And Erica Alexander, I believe, comes from a household with a single mother as well. And because they come from a single mother household, they are not used to seeing black men on the level of a leader and an authority figure. So when they see someone like Mr. Cosby, they don't know how to deal with a man from that perspective because they never grew up with a father in the home who would behave like the leader and authority figure he's supposed to be. Because when it comes down to men, men are going to be distant. Because when it comes down to men, men are logical thinkers. And when you're dealing with a man, he is not approaching you from the perspective of his feelings. That's why he's keeping his distance. Because when it comes down to a man, he wants to observe the whole situation so he can think critically about it. And then when he speaks to you, he's speaking to you so that he can come to you from a perspective of solving problems or motivating you to take action that needs to be taken. And someone who has a father in the home or has interacted with male figures, they are going to understand that because they understand the concept of male authority. And because they understand the concept of male authority, they understand that when it comes down to men, men do not communicate like women because men are more logical thinkers, they are more long-term thinkers, and they do things based on getting results for the overall situation, not just reacting to things. When it comes down to the two-parent household, this is where you have the balance because the man is focusing on the long term while the mother can focus on the short term. And when you have girls who come from single mother households, they don't understand this dynamic because they're only used to their mother being emotional and they're used to their mother oftentimes yelling and screaming or making demands all the time. So they're used to female authority, but when they have to interact with a man, this is what makes these females extremely uncomfortable because they are not used to seeing balanced male authority figures and they're not used to seeing a balanced dynamic. So this is why your Lisa Bonet will come out here and say Bill Cosby has a dark spirit because she is not used to black male authority figures. And this is also why many of these women, black women from single mother households, have a hard time in relationships because they are not used to black male authority. They are not used to black male authority figures, and they don't know how to work within the relationship dynamic of dealing with a black male. They're used to being the one in seeing females in charge, and they're used to wanting to have power in the relationship And this is why many relationships with black women or women who come from single mother households oftentimes fall apart, because when it comes down to women who have been raised in female headed households, they are used to being the one in charge, and they're used to being the one who makes all the decisions and has complete control over the relationship. And this is something they have a hard time dealing with, because when you deal with a man is going to want to take charge in the relationship, and he's going to want to be the leader of the relationship. But women from single mother households, they don't want to relinquish any power, because oftentimes they are insecure due to the fact that they saw their mothers being abused, and they've heard horror stories from their mother. So they want to continue to try to hold on to the power that they have and hold on to the control that they have, not understanding that by you relinquishing some of that power, it takes a lot of pressure off you. But a lot of times when it comes down to women from single mother households, they don't trust a man enough to even think about relinquishing that power. And because they don't want to relinquish the power, what happens is they wind up losing control of themselves, and then the man that they're involved with usually winds up leaving the relationship. And when it comes down to these kind of females, they are, again, oftentimes extremely insecure. And they get insecure, especially when it's time to be in the relationship and share power in the relationship. They don't like submitting to male authority figures. They don't like deferring to male authority figures. And they don't like acknowledging that the male is the leader in the relationship. No, they want to keep control over the relationship. And what usually happens is that there is usually a power struggle, and usually the man has to wind up leaving women who are in these from these single mother households, because there is nothing they can do. Because when it comes down to these type of females, they're so desperate to hold on to control over the relationship that there's no way for the man to even have any sort of ability to lead in that relationship, or to even have a say in the relationship. Because when it comes down to women from single mother households, they want to be the boss of the relationship. They want to dictate the terms of the relationship to the man, and they want to insist that the man do everything their way. Usually, the only types of guys who wind up getting involved with women from single mother households are effeminate men, beta males, or men on the down low, because these are men who have usually been raised in single mother households. And because they have been raised in single mother households, they have seen a model where they submit and defer to female authority figures. And because they are used to females being dominant over them, they are used to being in this unhealthy and unbalanced relationship where they see the female continuing to abuse them and disrespect them, and seeing this as something normal. Whereas someone who comes from a two-parent household, usually they're looking for the man to be the leader, they're looking for the man to be an authority figure, and they're looking for someone who is going to set a tone, but is also looking to share power and responsibility in the relationship. Because people from two-parent households usually are looking for a partner who is going to work with them, not someone who they have to control or someone they have to manipulate. And this is another trait of women who come from single mother households, is that they're always looking for somebody to manipulate and control, because they don't trust anyone to be responsible. Because when it comes down to the men they have interacted with and have dealt with in their lives, these men were extremely irresponsible, extremely dysfunctional, and they expect all men to be just like the men they have dealt with or have been told about by their single mother. And because they're looking for that kind of guy, it oftentimes becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And because they look for that kind of guy, they often find that guy, and then they get disappointed. And sometimes they will find a decent man who comes from a two-parent household or comes from an environment where he's dealt with male figures and understands male authority, and they'll wind up sabotaging things because of their insecurities regarding dealing with male authority figures. Because when it comes down to male authority figures, this is something that makes many of these women extremely uncomfortable. Now, when I was working at City College of New York in that civil service job, I noticed the same problems that Bill Cosby had with this pro-black female I was working with, and I started noticing patterns with her behavior when when one day we were talking about overtime, and she was talking about, Shawn, I can't work all these hours. Now, if this was a person from a balanced two-parent household, they would be saying to me that we have a situation where our budget went over and we need to work overtime. It wouldn't be, Shawn, I can't work all these hours. Now, that statement comes from the perspective of someone who comes from a single mother household, is not used to getting their needs met, and is looking to manipulate someone to do something for them. And that's what a big problem with a lot of these women who come from single mother households have. They look to manipulate men to do things for them instead of looking to share responsibility with a man like a woman from a two-parent household. And I've worked with women from two-parent households, and their approach is completely different. It's all about sharing, not about trying to manipulate someone. And this same pro-black female, she would always be uncomfortable. And the whole thing is, she was uncomfortable because she was not used to dealing with a balanced male from who was used to coming from an environment where he dealt with men like older brothers and a father and other male authority figures that I've met, like teachers. So she was uncomfortable with me as a male authority figure, and she was also uncomfortable with me as a co-worker who had equal power to her. And this is another thing that a lot of these women from single mother households have a hard time dealing with. They have a hard time dealing with a man who is on the same level as they are, because that man can look them in the eye, and that makes them extremely insecure. When a black man is on that level as they are, that's what makes them really uncomfortable. A lot of the black females, when they see a black male who's on the same level as they are, same education, same skill set, same mindset, it makes them very uncomfortable. What they're used to are black males being beneath her, black males being under her, black males submitting to her, and that's some of the things that they try to do when they get in environments. And later on, as I was working on this job, she was trying to do things to try to emasculate me, participating in passive aggressive behaviors, trying to make me lower than the students we were working with by doing things like trying to have me try to check all these books in the system, and then giving the other students tasks and then passing me by. And this was all, again, passive aggressive behaviors, because she was not used to a black male figure being on the same level as she was, a black male having the same skill set as she did, and meeting the same qualifications. Because when it comes down to a lot of females who come from female-headed households, these are the behaviors that they participate in when they are uncomfortable with a male authority figure, or a male who is on the same level as they are. Because when it comes down to women who come from single mother households, the only place they want to see black men who are out here is beneath them. And they'll go along with white men, but they have the same idea. The whole thing is that they believe they can manipulate and control these guys, and they want to be with those kind. They keep them around because they can use them to manipulate other people. Because a lot of problems with these women from the single mother household is that they have a problem with dealing with male authority overall. And yes, they will submit and defer to the white men, but again, that's just to manipulate them as tools. When they can't get what they want out of them, then you see who they truly are. And this is something that I saw when Mr. Superboy was talking about Bill Cosby regarding to Lisa Bonet and Erica Alexander, because when I saw them talking about Bill Cosby being aloof, it took me back to my experience at City College of New York in that civil service job, and it showed me how these females who come from single mother households behave. Because when it comes down to these females who come from female headed households, they have a real serious problem with male authority. They have a real serious problem with male authority figures, especially black male authority figures, because when they see a black male authority figure, it's something they're not comfortable with, because in their world, the only black men who they see interacting with their single mother are all black men who come from the position of submission. And because many of these black men are seen as soft and weak, they don't really feel comfortable with dealing with a black man who comes from a position of equality or a position of authority, because in their world, all the black men are weak black men, all the black men are soft black men, all the black men are submissive to her, and all the black men they have complete control over, because all they have to do is dial 911 and they can put that black man in jail. However, when they have to deal with a black man who is on the same level as they are, that really scares them, because that black man can, one, look them dead in the eye. Two, that black man can look at them and look at them from the objective and critical perspective and see all of their lies, manipulation, and games for what it truly is. And three, that black man is someone who can look at them and see what they are and then check them the way they need to be checked. And if that black man is an authority figure, there's nothing they can really do about it. And that's what makes them really angry, because they know they cannot bring that black man down to a lower level than they are. And what that black female was trying to do by going along with that mangina Jewish professor, by accusing me of sleeping on the job, she was trying to bring me down to her level. But even though I lost that job, she did not bring me down to that level, because I would not allow myself to be brought down to that level, because that's all a big problem many of these black females have, and many of these women from single mother households have, is that they want to try to bring a black man down. They want to try to destroy a black man, and they want to see a black man brought down in some way. But that can't be done unless that black man allows that to happen. That's why when God told me to keep going, I just left that job and moved on, just walked out and moved on, because when you deal with these type of females, they are extremely dysfunctional, and the only thing you can do is leave them where you find them. And when I look at what happened with Bill Cosby, again, I see what happens when you deal with black women who come from single mother households. A lot of them, they have, again, these real serious problems with male authority. And when it comes down to black male authority, because they have these problems, this is why many of their relationships fail. This is why their marriages fail. And this is why many of these black females have a hard time finding the quote unquote good man they say that they're looking for, because when it comes down to these females, they are so insecure about giving up power and sharing power with a black man and allowing him to have his natural role that God has established for him, that they wind up alienating the very man God has for them because of their dysfunctional behavior. If you want to learn more about many of the reasons why 70% of black women are single, you can pick up my ebook, Why 70% of Black Women, on Amazon.com by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to help me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.